Thank you for staying with us. You're still watching The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. It's time to look at the global stories that has made it to the front pages of our national dailies this morning. And joining us to review the papers is Nick Agule. He's a public affairs analyst. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Rume. Good morning, Nyamgul. Good morning to all our viewers globally.
Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. All right, we begin with The Guardian this morning, and The Guardian leads with eyes on Rivers CJ as impeachment plot thickens against Fubara and deputy. It's also the leading story on The Punch, and it says impeachment move tension in Rivers as Assembly serves Fubara misconduct notice. Tanita tightens security, lawmakers list 19 infractions against Governor. Amechi camp kicks. What's your take on this issue in Rivers State? I mean, it's been for over a year now. We've seen Wike, Fubara have their day in the field for a while now, and as of today, we're already seeing the impeachment notice. Remember that about 27 members of the House of Assembly defected, even though legitimately you would think that those seats would now be vacant, but there was a Supreme Court order that said they should still have those seats. So right now, as of today, it's an impeachment notice. I want to get your take on everything that's happening in Rivers State.
Thank you very much. River State is a sad situation. It goes to show that governance in Nigeria is not about delivering service and quality service for that matter to the people of Nigeria. It is about individuals. And in Nigeria, as it is playing out in River State and elsewhere, we have spent the past 64 years of our independence to build strong individuals instead of strong institutions. And this trend started right from the First Republic. So when we had the First Republic, you notice that there were strong individuals, like in the Southwest, where you had Akintola and Awolowo. These strong individuals overpowered the institutions, and they took over power. The military cashed in on that, started taking power, and in the military, once they came into office, they set aside institutions. So they will set aside the constitution, set aside the electoral body, everything, and then they run the country as strong individuals. And that process has continued even into the Fourth Republic, where we are now. And this is not good for the country, because democracy can only thrive if institutions are strong. And I don't think River State is an example of building strong institutions. So for 2 years now, I don't think governance has happened in River State, even as the governor himself did concede at some point. And that is because a former governor who has left a seat has taken the seat of the governor, the office of the governor, which is an institution. If you want to take the occupant out of the equation, there is the office of the governor. It's been established by the Constitution. It's an institution. And that office of the governor of River State, an individual has taken it to be as if it is his personal property, to bequeath to whoever he wants. And he believes that if I now give you this office and you don't do my bidding, then it is my constituted right to, cause problems and remove you from that office. And unfortunately, there are a lot of Nigerians who support this kind of things. And I wonder how we support things like this. They turn around and expect to enjoy the dividends of democracy. It's not going to happen, because it's not democracy, right? So I'm not talking about Mr. Fubara, who is the occupant of the office. I'm looking at the office of the governor of River State. Shouldn't be something that a former governor should be fighting for, as if it belongs to him. Can we just wait 1 minute and just think about this, right? And this has gone on now, like I say, for 2 years, and one of Nigeria's most vibrant states has been pinned down in this kind of crisis. But we are where we are, for me, even the judiciary is culpable because yesterday I saw in the news where they say the Supreme Court has reserved judgment on the campaign of the 27 members of the Rivers Assembly. And I'm not a lawyer, but I was scratching my head to say, the other day you just gave a judgment that these guys were legit, they should be put back in office, everything. Why are you reserving judgment to determine their decamping? Because that decamping, if you say they actually decamped, that means they are no longer members. Except you say they didn't decamp, then they become members. So again, the judiciary is not also helping matters. And that's an institution that without its effectiveness, you cannot say you have a democracy. But then, of course, the Constitution provides the process for impeachment. So the first step in the impeachment process has been served, which is the State Assembly issuing this notice. Then, of course, the Chief Judge of the state will have to constitute a panel to look at the allegations and all of that. And we're here to watch how everything plays out. What if the Chief Judge does not constitute a panel? Or what if the Chief Judge constitutes a panel that says the governor is not in breach of these allegations against him? There are all sorts of scenarios that are going to play out in Rivers State. And unfortunately, instead of watching Rivers State develop, we now have our popcorns ready in hand to watch the basketballs that will go on in Rivers State, as we say in Nigerian English, which is the fisticuffs that is ensuing now in that state, unfortunately.
Okay, well, River State issues are very tiring. Sometimes you just sigh and you're like, okay, let's see what happens next, because there's still so much that will happen in River State. We know that it will happen. Let's just take a compassionate one, I must say. A little headline down left-hand corner on the Punch newspaper says, Copper who criticized Tinubu under pressure to apologize. That's according to an activist. I don't know if you've heard the story of the copper who said that the administration of Tinubu is terrible. And she went ahead and outlined the things that she feels are making the administration terrible. And the man who is at the helm of affairs, whoever is at the helm of affairs is the one who bears the blame for everything. Now, she called names, said the things that she said were wrong with our country, and also said that Nigerians are smiling because everybody wants to show that they're big enough, they're doing the things that everybody is saying are hard, and all that. If you've watched the video or you've heard the news, this is what it is, and the copper is facing a lot of backlash from the authorities. I'd like you to comment on the whole issue.
I think the problem of Nigeria is Nigerians themselves, right? Because the point here is that we must agree, and every Nigerian, we don't need to tell them, they are feeling this thing themselves. From May 29, 2023 to today, which is 18th of February 2025. March. 18th of March 2025. Which Nigerian will say he's better off today than he was on the 29th of May 2023? Which Nigerian? The only Nigerian who can say he's better off today than about 2 years back is the one that probably has got access to the national treasury and is milking the system. But any other Nigerian who is just doing their legitimate work, earning their salary, can never say they are better off today than about 2 years ago. Why? Because even if they have got an increase in their salary, like for instance, minimum wage was 30,000 then, is 70,000 now, they will tell you that they are facing harsh economic realities that makes that minimum wage of 70,000 to be peanuts. They will rather earn the minimum wage of 30,000 and have cost remain at the 2023 level. Because as we speak today, petroleum products have gone ahead from 180, 190, under 200 to went to 1,000, maybe 800 and 900. The foreign exchange has moved away from the official rate of 460 about 2 years ago to 1,500 today. And it's impacting on us because we are still importing a lot of things. Yeah, electricity tariffs have gone up. Yeah, even telecom tariffs have gone up. You know, and then there are all sorts of things that are happening that have made life so bad. Then you look at the other side. Let's look at the supply side. The refineries, we are still hearing stories about them, right? So then agriculture, we should have been producing food. We have not heard this government liberate a farming community and return them to their farms, and then giving them machines to produce. Electricity is still at 5,000 megawatts. Nobody's talking about the steel plants. You know, our gas is still being flared. Nobody's talking about all of those things. So you realize that it's very hard for everybody. And to think that given this hardship, people don't even want someone to cry. You know, it doesn't make sense. And for me, the most troubling aspect of this is that it is Nigerians who are pouring vitriol on this poor youth corps member. Look, she confessed and said, this is the first time I'm having to be on my own, because she has been under her parents' care. Probably she has never been going to the market. Her mom goes to the market or things like that. Now she's seeing the reality of Nigeria. And this kind of reality, people don't even want her to cry. You know, I can understand if government is coming up against her, but how about the Nigerians who are also suffering what this lady is describing, pouring insults on her? You see, if we continue like this, and this is a direct message to Nigeria, we are never going to enjoy this democracy until our lives in this world end. Because if you go to the United States, a lot of Nigerians would have heard of her, but if they have not, I will tell you there was a lady called Rosa Parks. And she protested against the system, a system of segregation of blacks. When you enter a bus and a white person enters the bus, you need to stand up and give your seat to the white person. And she refused to do that. And she was picked up by the authorities, and the blacks supported her. And the blacks boycotted the bus system for 1 year until American Constitution was changed and segregation was totally removed in the American society. I mean, institutionalized discrimination. If it was in Nigeria today, given what is happening to this lady, if she did that, there will be Nigerians that will say, hey, you are the one who didn't want to enter bus. Me, I'm entering bus, so enter bus and go. And then they'll be looking and say, okay, where is this one state from? Maybe, he's trying to attack the leaders who come from my own place. How can we break through with this kind of mindset? I think we need to go back and ask ourselves, who are we fighting in Nigeria? The battle in Nigeria is between us, the oppressed, and the oppressors. And the oppressors don't know ethnicity. They don't know religion. If you go to Abuja today, right, the minister can be from the northwest, and the permanent secretary can be from the south, and the director of finance can be from the southwest, and they are not quarreling. They are taking the money. You see, lastly, let me just say one thing here, because I know you might want to take the mic for me. One thing, you look at this Akpabio, Senator Akpabio, Senator Natasha issue. There is a very important issue that was raised. Senator Natasha said, look, I had this money coming to a bank account for my committee, about 900,000 per month. I asked, what is it for? They say, oh, you use it for running the committee and all of that. And she said, okay, because I didn't have anything to spend the money on. She started saving the money to the tune of about 9 million. Immediately she was removed from that committee. The clerk of the Senate in 2 transactions came and swept that money away. Nigerians have not even asked the question about that transaction. What did you sweep that money away to do? Instead, everybody is so fixated with the sexual harassment. You know? So at the end of the day, how can we enjoy democracy when we're not even interested in defending it? We should have been asking the clerk of the Senate to tell us what he did with that 9 million. He came and swept from that committee account. But we're not asking such questions. I think we're in for a rough ride ahead of us if we continue like that.
Like I said, when I saw the story, I was like, to be honest, that's the reality of many Nigerians. Fine, maybe the choice of her words were a bit harsh, but it's just a hard pill to swallow. Is that what we're facing in Nigeria? When you think of the bills, the responsibilities, adulting really in this economy is not easy. So it's where we are, and if no one is going to speak up, if she's speaking up, I don't think she should be threatened for it.
I watched that video and I was just asking myself, where is the strong word she even used?
Where is the lie?
Because you're just stating facts.
Yeah.
Maybe you use the word terrible.
Terrible, yeah.
But it's terrible. What is the alternative for terrible? What is the alternative for terrible? Would have said, okay, you are not a very nice person. That's what you're, I don't know. But
yeah. All right, let's look at another story. So The Guardian has dissociate from El-Rufai's deceptive politics. Southern Alliance wants Obi and Atiku. On the Daily Trust, it leads with El-Rufai accuses Uba Sani of siphoning local government funds to UK, South Africa. The writer here says no local government receives 50 million naira per month. Provide evidence. Shehu Sani challenges ex-governor. So El-Rufai is in the news for, well, two things. One is accusing Uba Sani of siphoning the local government funds, and there was a time where local government autonomy was finally made into law, that the local governments can now use their own funds to develop their constituencies instead of the governors having to, have that power over them. But we're seeing here where El-Rufai is obviously accusing Uba Sani of siphoning these funds. But on the flip side, people are also telling, Obi and Atiku, the Southern Alliance, warning them of El-Rufai, who has moved to,
SDP?
SDP? Yes, SDP. And I want to get your take on all of this.
Especially in light of the fact that APC is attacking El-Rufai, that whatever he's saying doesn't make sense because he was deprived of ministerial appointment. That's why he's talking and he's not a threat. So look at this in light of the fact that 2027 is approaching and how this might affect the political climate then.
I'm not the right person to ask about El-Rufai, because I have a totally biased mind against him, you see. So I'm not going to be able to give him any flowers at all. El-Rufai was someone that I respected a lot in his days in BPE, and then becoming a minister for the FCT under the Obasanjo regime. I admired him. I thought he was a very smart man, competent, and quite eloquent as well, and he was very active. But when he went to become governor of Kaduna State, he unmasked himself. I'm sorry to use this word, but that's the way I view him. I view him as a jihadist, right? So he unmasked himself, and you can clearly see what has happened in Kaduna State. Southern Kaduna was enjoying relative peace before he became governor. And when he became governor, there was genocide in Southern Kaduna. And now that he has left the office of the governor in Kaduna State, relative peace has returned to Kaduna State. And his children, his sons, they come to social media and make very aggressive statements, and he doesn't come on to rein them in. We expect that a leader of that caliber, when your child makes a statement threatening people, you will come in and say, no, please hold on, calm down, don't say that. You never hear that. And then, of course, he went into this crisis. Of course, he himself has said it. I watched an interview of his. When I watched this interview, I was sitting here in my house when I was watching him, and I picked up my phone and I went on my Facebook page and I wrote that, sometimes I'm very happy when people are crying, and that El-Rufai is currently crying on TV, So now he believes that the APC, which he had vowed never to leave, didn't do him well. President Tinubu did not give him a ministerial position, and so he can pull down the house. When you see people like that, unfortunately, Nigerians, they get quickly brainwashed. without looking at the real issues. You are looking at someone here who is very selfish. Because you see, if he was given a ministerial position or this government is consulting him or he's in the inner caucus of the government, he will not put down the house. But just because he wasn't given a ministerial position and he's been packed to the corner, he must pull down the house. It is his selfish interest that he's fighting for. He's not fighting for the interest of any Nigerian. People should not be, hypnotized into believing this kind of antics. And at the end of the day, he's running up and down and says, I'm in the SDP and all of that. You see, the problem of Nigeria is that even this opposition now, they are going to have problem. Let me tell you, in 2014, when the APC was born, the APC was born by an amalgamation, an amalgam of different political party interests, the Buhari's side, the Tinubu side, and all of that. At the end of the day, you will realize that they let Buhari to be the arrowhead of the amalgamation, and he became presidential candidate. In this SDP or whatever is left of the opposition now, PDP, SDP, put them all together. They have people in those parties who will say is either I become presidential candidate or this thing is not going to work. So at the end of the day, you will discover that they are going to self-destruct. Yeah, because every one of them will want to become presidential candidate. And that is exactly what even happened in 2023, right? Where they couldn't come together, and at the end they splintered themselves into different parties. So Atiku was on one side, Obi was on one side. Assuming as at that 2023, Atiku said, let me sacrifice my ambition because a fellow Fulani like me has just finished 8 years. And then Obi went on the ticket, and all of them supported Obi. Perhaps we could have a different president in Nigeria today, but it's not going to happen. I can assure you, because the people like Erufai, they are power hungry. Atiku is power hungry, and so any conversation about an Atiku Obi ticket is not going to work. Why? I don't think Atiku would like to be vice president to Obi. Neither will Obi want to be vice presidential candidate to Atiku. So unfortunately, perhaps the APC is just going to stroll back into Aso Villa in 2027.
Okay, let's go back to transportation. Time is fast running out. Motorists pass night at CNG stations over inadequate dispensing points. Experts urge expansion of filling centers. Government has no input in it, according to Presidential Committee. It begs the question how effective the CNG scheme is and how it's going to affect our economy. It was touted to be one of the best things after sliced bread, and now we're seeing what is happening in this sector. I don't know how in the nearest future this CNG will impact on Nigeria's economy and what steps you think need to be taken to make that a reality.
It's unfortunate that the presidential spokesman can make that kind of statement, that the government does not have a hand in the expansion of CNG filling stations. Because this has been one of President Tinubu's cardinal projects, that he's going to flood Nigeria with CNG buses and all of that. How can you flood Nigeria with CNG buses without having CNG filling stations all over the place? And by the way, there is a presidential committee on CNG whose job is also to ensure the expansion of CNG across the nation. So for me, these are areas where government policy, activates development. Government really needs to say, what are we going to do to support the private sector to turn Nigeria into a CNG consuming nation? And that's why you have a development plan. It can be there and even outlive the current administration, and the next administrations will take over and continue with that. Yesterday I had a very good discussion with Rume about Dangote refinery and the importers who are now being pushed out of the market. And I was offering the importers an alternative business, which is agriculture. Because I said agriculture produces food, which every human must eat, unlike petroleum products, which some human may not bother to eat. Perhaps I forgot to also advise them that CNG is another area they should look into. So these importers that Dangote is now trying to push out of the market by cutting his own prices, they should turn to CNG. They should invest in CNG. And if they invest in CNG, they're actually competing directly with Dangote, because CNG, of course, is cheaper We run a bus company. We installed one of our buses with CNG, and we know that it's cheaper to run. Yeah. So if they now invest in CNG, unfortunately, we cannot produce the equipment in Nigeria because we don't have the steel plants. These are the kind of things government need to think about. We don't have steel plants, so we can't produce anything mechanical, machines that needs ions. But let's import these CNG kits as much as we can and just begin to convert petrol stations into CNG stations, or even if you have petrol stations, you have one side of it to be CNG stations and all of that. And then, of course, we should be thinking about electric technology as well. Like here in the UK, almost every petrol station, if you go to now, they have started installing electric charging points, right? So that's where the world is heading to. If you drive into a petrol station, you choose where to go. Is it to go and charge my car on the electric, or is it to go and put CNG in my tank, or I want petrol? So this is the kind of thing that, so I really advise these marketers who are now feeling the heat in the petroleum side to begin to look at the CNG side, so that we can now turn Nigeria, everywhere you turn, you can see CNG to use.
All right, thank you so much.
So far, I only know one CNG charging point in Lagos is somewhere here on the island. There may be others, but when I see that one and the way it's decorated with flowers and everything, it tells you that it's just a one-off thing that you can't find everywhere else, and it's worrisome.
Yeah, because I mean, if the president was going to promise about 100 CNG buses, which we haven't still seen, by the way, but if you're going to promise that, like you said, you need to have how people can actually get this commodity. Everybody's looking at traditional fuel, but where are we going to in the future? Are we looking at electric cars? Are we looking at, other forms, aside fossil fuel? So it's important that we really look into it. And it's sad that, you're seeing these people who have maybe converted their vehicles because they're trying to avoid paying so much for fuel, but now they're sleeping in gas stations just because they cannot even see the product. Anywho, this is how much we can take on this segment right now. Nick, we want to say thank you so much for coming. It's been a pleasure having you this morning.
Thank you very much, and have a nice day.
You too, sir. Thank you.
We've been speaking with Nick Agule. He's a public affairs analyst, and we were just taking the stories that made it to the front pages of our national dailies. We'll go on a short break now. When we return, we'll be discussing our first hot topic that talks about inflation drop. Please stay with us.